Hey everybody, welcome into Monday's show here on JTV. I'm David Rice. Our show today brought to you by the Insurance Circle Agency. I'm not wearing the hat today. That's different.
This might be the first show in a while.
I know. I'm David. That's Adam. Hello, Adam.
Hello, man.
Not a very good week for our teams.
I mean, my fantasy team did pretty well, but that's about it.
Right. Tigers, not so good. Michigan, definitely not so good. The Lions had a bye week, so that's a wash. The Packers won, so I'll take that.
They should have won that game.
It shouldn't have been that close.
Yeah.
But the Rams, they can't close second half. They've struggled so far this year. But we'll talk about more the Packers game coming up, and we'll have our top plays later on too, thanks to Potocki Orthodontics. We do have a very busy show, so let's get into it right away. High school football Week 6 happened last Friday. I can't believe we're already in 6 weeks through.
Man.
3 undefeated teams still. Leslie, Springport, and Hanover remain undefeated. Let's start off with our first game, Cascades West. Jonesville with the big win over Columbia Central. That made our producer very happy there. 32-12 over Columbia. Anything you want to say to the community?
I didn't watch the game. I mean, I didn't watch the game, so I wasn't
didn't either.
there.
I mean, we were at Hanover.
Right.
But,
no, it went how I expected it to go. I don't know. I don't know what you want me to say.
Well,
I picked
know
Jonesville for a reason.
I know you have to pick Columbia this week because they play Homer. So
yeah,
if you take Homer,
okay. It's probably.
I know you will take Jonesville though because they play Vandercook.
Yeah, so I definitely have Jonesville in that game. But
right.
but yeah, no, and we'll get into the picks on Wednesday's show. But yeah, Jonesville, like I said, that kind of went how I expected. I figured Jonesville would pick up the dub, and they did.
And even though I think Columbia, obviously the score between those two teams reflected different, I felt like coming into the game, Columbia was a better team. They started struggling. They started the season 0-3, but Jonesville, the last 2-3 weeks, so have really turned it on. Jonesville started out 0-2, and now they're 3-3. So
they've been playing well. They've been playing well recently. So
right, and they're getting them. Obviously, Hanover is going to win the Cascades West. There's no discussion there. But really, second place now is open between Jonesville and now Columbia. And Columbia actually still plays Hanover in Week 8. So not this week, but the following week. And if Columbia would have beat Jonesville, the Columbia-Hanover game they both would have undefeated conference records. It would have been winner will play in the conference championship, but now it's Hanover for sure out of the West. But Jonesville beat Columbia 32-12, 32 carries, 244, and 2 scores for John Milks for Jonesville. Columbia will host Homer on Friday. In Jonesville now 3-3 will travel to Vandercook this week. Another big one, Manchester 72-19 over East Jackson. Manchester 264 rushing yards. Manchester 5-1. They travel to Grass Lake. That's a big game now, especially for Grass Lake. It's a must win, and they don't come into this game this week as the favorite. Because they've struggled the last couple of weeks, Grass Lake had a tough loss to Center, and East Jackson still winless, and they host Leslie, so it doesn't get any easier for them either. And, of course, the game we were at on JTV Friday, Hanover got a big win over Vandercook, 51-0. The Comets remain undefeated, and they rushed for 306 yards on the night. Colin Griffiths, he's the main JV running back, number 10 for Hanover, and he got a lot of touches in the first half. He finished with 104 yards and 1 score. Also, A.J. Fielder, J.J. Russ, Luke Soper, Austin Hocker, Jack Wooster all scored for Hanover. Jackson Johnson also had a nice kickoff return down to the 1. That'll be in our top plays. And he caught a touchdown as well. So Vandercook's now 1-5. They go Jonesville, and Hanover travels to Addison on Friday. Speaking of Grass Lake, they've dropped now 2 weeks in a row. They lost to Center on Friday. This was a big one and a big must-win for Center, 33-28. Now it feels like Center's back in the mix a little bit.
Yeah, dang it. I wish I would have picked Michigan Center. I wanted to pick them, but it was one of those games where it's just like it could have gone either way. Both teams are hungry, but Yeah, Grass Lake, man, kind of weird. Picked up a couple losses, but these losses that they've had are against good teams, if I remember correctly. I wasn't,
Well, they lost to Napoleon,
which is a good team.
right? And we know Center's a good team that has the weapons, but they're still so banged up.
For sure,
And Grass Lake should have, taken advantage of that. And I think Grass Lake should have won and should have won by a lot coming in.
I don't know if they should have won by a lot, but I'm with you where it's like they should have won.
Yeah.
But Michigan Center, they're that type of team where it's just like they can pick up a win. Maybe
they're going to get it together.
Yeah. So I'm super happy for them because, like we said, they've had some losses recently, and just you hate to see it because you know that they've been banged up. But what a big win for them! And now it starts to question. All right, what's Grass Lake going to do? Who'd you say they have next week?
Grass Lake will host Manchester.
See, I mean,
and Michigan Center goes to Napoleon.
Oh man!
So we've got a big college football week coming up. We've got a big high school week.
We do.
But Grass Lake is still out of the playoffs now, and I don't think they'll beat Manchester the way Manchester's playing too.
Manchester's played very
so
well.
Grass Lake is going to be 3-4 going into week 8 against Leslie.
Yeah. Oh man.
So potentially, Grass Lake could finish 3-5 going into the crossover and put themselves in like 4th or 5th place, just in front of East Jackson in the East.
They got to pick up one of those wins. One of those.
Yeah, within the next 1 or 2 weeks, if they don't win, they're not in the playoffs.
Wow.
Not like mathematically they lose and they're out, but it's 90% chance pretty much.
Yeah.
So
right,
if they don't win 2 out of their next 3 games, I think they're out of the playoffs.
What do you got to say to Grass Lake right now, to the football team, to pump them up, get them ready for a win?
But just because I'm a Warrior too?
You're an alum.
I can't say what I want to say because we're on TV.
This isn't Michigan now. This is Grass Lake High School.
Right. It's been tough. They lost to a good Napoleon team, but that's what Napoleon does. So they have a good defense. They run the football and they eat the clock. And their offensive line is just unbelievable. We saw that a couple weeks ago. So that was a tough loss for them. And Grass Lake, Michigan Center scored twice in the 4th quarter. So Grass Lake has to finish strong. And that's exactly what happened with Napoleon. Grass Lake was up at halftime, as you remember. And then Napoleon scored, I think, twice in the second half, if not 3 times total. Come back there, too, including that big final drive. And same thing with Jackson High. We'll talk about it more on Wednesday's show. They play Chelsea this week. We'll be there on JTV. But same thing with J High. They've lost 2 straight games where they've led at halftime and then they don't end up winning.
And after being undefeated.
I know. Right.
It's crazy.
So Center 33-28 over Grass Lake. Braden Lape finished with 345 passing yards for Grass Lake.
He has another good game, and then they lose.
I know. Addison over Homer, 60-22, and it was homecoming this last Friday at Jackson High, and they fell to Adrian. Adrian and Ypsi Community are the 2 bottom teams in the SEC White, and they've lost to them the past 2 weeks.
Wow.
And they had the lead at halftime both those weeks. Adrian 17, Jackson 14. Of course, watching highlights here, thanks to Matt Kibbe. J High led 14-7. Late in the 4th quarter, but they gave up a safety, and then Adrian got the ball back on the punt, and they scored a touchdown to win the game.
Man.
So the Vikings are now 4-2 after they started 4-0 for the first time under Coach Parker, and now they will host Chelsea. This week on JTV, we will have that. More details on that on Wednesday's show. Lumen Christi was their homecoming too. Jeff Steers, as he put it, the scoreboard operator, took a beating. It was 63 to 35. That's 98 total points.
That's a
Lumen beat Toledo St. Francis de Sales. And now Lumen earns another Catholic High School League championship with the victory. But they've got another tough game coming up. Traverse City St. Francis.
That's about as tough as that schedule will get.
Remember the 2020, not last year's state final where they played Menominee, but the year before.
It's a great game.
They played St. Francis and won 15-12 at Ford Field. I don't know how I remember the score.
Were you there for that one?
I was not there.
Oh.
My first time was last year against Menominee.
Oh, me and Austin were at that one, and that one was a tremendous game.
Right, you know? Austin was there last year too.
That's right. I think I was the only one that was. That's right. That's right. He was working. He's working on the field.
And they played Traverse City St. Francis in week 2 or 3. We did that game live on JTV here.
Another great game.
Yeah, and that was close. That was a high scoring. So Lumen will play TC St. Francis here this week. So we'll have more on Lumen Christie in a couple weeks. We'll have them one more time on JTV in a couple weeks as they play Gaylord, another big game. Gaylord beat Lumen last year, so we'll get to watch Gaylord and Lumen. Leslie got a big win over Napoleon. They are now 6-0. Joel Cranmore. It was a light game for him. 210 yards and 3 touchdowns.
That's a light game. Wow.
It's a light game for him. Well, compared to this so far this season. But they did get the win 36-28, and that's a tough Napoleon team. I got to give credit to the Pirates, though, for hanging in there well with them because it was close the entire game. And Jaden Colby had 2 scores for 129 yards, and Braden Johnson had a touchdown. Napoleon now 3-3. They host Center. I think Napoleon obviously will do picks Wednesday, but I think right now Napoleon will beat Center Friday, and then Leslie obviously will beat East Jackson. So the way it's looking, and we've said it the past couple weeks, it's going to look like Leslie Hanover for the championship. Springport. Their magical season still continues. They are 6-0. They beat Reading 28-24. Less than 2 minutes left. Springport was down by 2. They went down there, scored a touchdown to beat Reading 28-24. Springport hosts Union City, the back-to-back defending Big 8 champions on Friday. This is Springport's really only super tough test on their regular season schedule this year. So we'll see if Springport can go 7-0 after this week.
I was going to say, so does it look like to you if they get through Union City, they'll go undefeated? Is that kind of what it's looking like? Okay.
Because the Big 8 really isn't that deep. Besides Union City, there's Springport. And then I know Reading almost beat them if Springport wouldn't have scored. But Reading would be like the next best team, and they're not super great either. So the Big 8 just really isn't that deep. So, yeah, if they beat Union City, that's 9-0.
I wish luck to the Port.
Yeah,
Let's see if they can do it.
The Port, the Spartans. At least one Spartans team did good this week.
That's right.
We can't say much anyways.
I was going to say we don't have much room to talk.
And another team, this was a shocker. Western has now lost 2 of their last 3. They lost to Harper Creek 35-13, and their other loss this year was against Hastings 2 weeks ago. They're going to have to play most likely either Hastings or Harper Creek in the playoffs in a rematch, and that's not good for Western based on how they played last time. Harper Creek 35, Western 13, watching highlights here, again thanks to Matt Kibbe. Reed Myers finished with 172 passing yards and a touchdown. Western will travel to Mountie Nation this week, the Western Northwest rivalry.
Classic game.
Yep, and Springport got their first win in the Big 8. They beat Quincy 28-7. Stockbridge goes to Sand Creek Friday. Hillsdale lost. They're 0-6. Concord lost 50-12 in 8-man over Pittsford. They got stomped on their homecoming night, Concord. And this game was on Saturday. Northwest went near Royal Oak and got a win. They beat Berkeley 35-12. Go Mounties. The Mounties are now 2-4. I'm glad they've turned it around 2 of the last 3 weeks now. So they're now 2-4. Obviously, they have a tough game this week with Western. But if they can get one more win, still 3 or 4 wins the last couple of years for Northwest is still improving, and that's great for their program.
For sure. And I was going to say, like, get these wins, have this momentum towards the end of the year, getting some wins.
Leave it on a high note.
Yeah, exactly. And then go into next season,
right,
ready to have a good year and potentially be contenders.
Quarterback number 4, Gabe Christner, who we talked to earlier in the season for Media Day. He had 2 rushing touchdowns and 1 passing for the Mounties. So big win for Northwest, 35-12. So that was a good way to end the high school week Saturday afternoon. So you can watch more highlights from Western, Hanover Horton, Jay High, and pictures from the area online at jtv.tv, and of course on the locker room and everywhere else with JTV, and on our Facebook page. So a lot of good games. Adam, looking at all the scores, what are your big takeaways, or any nuggets you saw there you want to point out?
Let's see, Nuggets. I mean, we already talked about, I think Jonesville Columbia Central was interesting, just the score. I know we talked about that earlier,
right,
but for it to
Columbia
be 32-12.
Went from starting 0-3 to getting 2. One of their 2 wins was an upset over Addison. Because coming into that game, obviously now they're a better team than Addison. But coming in, I thought Addison was going to win. So one of their 2 wins was an upset, and now they get stomped by Jonesville, who's been hot, though.
Yeah. And, I mean, the other one to look at, too, Michigan, and again, we talked at length about this, but Michigan Center, Grass Lake, I thought that was very interesting. Love the win for Michigan Center, but Grass Lake, they gotta pick up a couple wins here. Like you said, they're going to miss out in the playoffs, and I would hate to see that with how talented that team is, especially in the pass game,
And because, I towards the end of when I was in high school, when those seniors, Braden Lape and them, were all freshmen and sophomores, I was in school with them, and I know the talent that is on that team, and of course, longtime great coach Randy Cole and the coordinators. They have all the pieces, and I really hope they can turn it around here, because they do have the pieces. So, like you said, it would be, sad for a team that has great weapons like that to not even be in the playoffs. So that's my biggest takeaway. Of course, great win for Leslie over a good Napoleon team.
Yeah, I was going to mention that too. I mean, those are 2 really good teams, and that'd be like, of the games that were there. Like, if I had my choice to pick one to watch, it probably would have been that one, just because 2 contrasting styles going after the Grass Lake game, and Leslie's just so good offensively, so it'd be fun to watch. But Leslie picked up the win there, and then the other one, Harper Creek scoring 35 on Western. Western only getting 13 points, just very surprising. Thought that game was going to be a lot closer, and thought Western had a chance to win it.
And I was talking with our own Noah Baker earlier about that game when he was looking at the highlights from Kibbe, and he said Harper Creek's running back is unbelievable. If you're watching the highlights here a second ago, he said that was probably one of the fastest running backs he's seen in a long time. So, and I watched the touchdown that was in the highlights from him. As soon as he got the ball and got right through the hole that was made by the offensive line, he was gone. The acceleration was ridiculous, and the speed. So, but yeah, tough loss for Western, and they're now 4-2. Their chances now of having a home playoff game are slim, unless if they end up winning out.
Right, but we still got the playoffs to look forward to, and they're still a very good team. So this is just a stumble. This isn't, they're going to keep going.
They will. Not for sure, but there's a chance they'll play again, though, either Harper Creek or Hastings in the playoffs.
Let them get that rematch against Harper Creek and see what they can do against them. Now they've seen them once. It'd be interesting.
Right. So for everything else and highlights and pictures and the whole weekend scoreboard, not just football, but all the other Saturday sports, go to jtb.tv. Speaking of our Hanover Vandercook game, we have our top 5 plays of the week from Potocki Orthodontics. Coming up, we'll get to the Tigers. Of course, since we saw you last, they won the wild card round. Game 1, not so much.
Ooh.
But we'll have our top plays of the week when we come back. Welcome back here on JTV. I'm David Rice. Thanks to the Insurance Circle Agency. See, I still have a hat right here. I'm just not wearing it. But thanks to the Circle, Jackson, and Battle Creek. And, of course, thanks to Potocki Orthodontics. A great smile is always in style, especially at Potocki. 3 locations in Grass Lake, Hillsdale, and Coldwater. Come visit their wonderful team. Schedule a visit today at PotockiOrtho.com and have your smile your way. You ready, Adam? Let's get right into it. Our top 5 plays of the week. At number 5, Colin Griffiths, the main JV running back for the Comets, got a lot of touches in the first half Friday night as they played Vandercook. He comes in at number 5. The first play from scrimmage of the second quarter, the sophomore Colin Griffiths gets into the end zone for Hanover Horton. We're talking before, there weren't really a ton of, huge plays, huge action plays in this game. But there was definitely still plays in there, worthy of making our segment. But that's at number 5, Colin Griffiths. At number 4, 9:33 left in the third quarter. Jackson Johnson got a touchdown pass. We'll hear his name again later in our top plays. Luke Soper's touchdown pass from number 5 to number 2 to extend their lead mid-third quarter. At number 2, Vandercook. of course, at number 3. Vandercook kickoff return by number 4, Leland Barton. That was right when we were talking about the extra patties on the broadcast for 79 cents.
The McDonald's conversation is just
that went on for
thing.
like 20 minutes.
It's so funny.
Anyways, Leland Barton. Josh mentioned it too on the broadcast. You watched the kickoff return here. Of course, the drop was bobbled at first, and then he picked it up and then returned it. 10:39 left in the second quarter. Leland Barton taking it way past midfield for Vandercook. Josh talked about it on the broadcast. Of course, we know what the results are going to be this year with Vandercook in most of their games, but you see a lot of positive plays, though, and the right idea on the plays and the effort from Vandercook. They're going to continue to get better in the next couple of years now that their program is back, fully competing. So I think Vandercook will get better, and this is just the start.
Yeah, and that was their best play of the day, was this play. And yeah, they got to build on stuff for next year. Going into this season, that's kind of, it's kind of a lost cause at this point, but you're building on stuff for next year. And, that's the sort of play that you want to see more out of them, going forward.
At number 2, the first play of the fourth quarter, A.J. Fielder. I wasn't actually even paying attention. I was looking at the monitor during the game, and then Josh taps me. He's like, hey, look at this run here. So here's A.J. Fielder, number 14 for the Comets, to open the fourth quarter, one of many players who ended up scoring a touchdown for the Comets. And our top play of the week at number 1, 10:56 to play in the second quarter, right before Vandercook's kickoff return and right after Colin Griffith's touchdown at number 5. Jackson Johnson gets a kickoff return to open the second quarter and takes it all the way down to inside the 1-yard line, almost 90-yard plus touchdown. So that was a great run by Jackson Johnson. He has 2 of our top 5 plays this week. I probably could have picked between a few more for Hanover Horton, but obviously I know they played a team like Vandercook who's struggling, but still nonetheless, I'm glad we got to finally watch Hanover in person though, and it was a great performance.
Yeah, they're a good team. They're a really good team. You left off my favorite play though.
What's that?
It was the safety, but more importantly, it was Max. I don't know if anybody has seen this, but
he posted it on his Facebook.
Good, because I was gonna say I kind of want to insert the clip, but it's Max next to the train horns, and the train horns goes off right next to his head.
I think we can play the clip. Do we want to?
Yeah. Let's go ahead and play it.
Yeah, okay.
Let's play
All right, let's roll it. Down on the field to Max. Max, are you gonna try the chicken Big Mac? I gotta ask you.
Oh, I would love that. My go-to is the Big Mac. I didn't know they were coming out with that, so I'm going to have to try that. I just wanted to point out quickly, because I know we got some action going on here.
I think we're going to have a safety right down by you, partner. Nope, they're going to mark them down on the 1.
Mark down on the 1. Oh!
Nope, they will.
So, will be a safety.
Well, I don't know if the camera was on me at that moment, boys, but I now am bleeding out of one ear.
Oh, you're standing right in front of it.
I am right by the train horn. I was going to tell you about the train horn, that they blow this whenever they score a touchdown, and obviously whenever they get a safety as well. I was not expecting that. I'm currently bleeding out of an ear, but I will get checked out by the trainer, and I'll be reporting back. So, back to you guys.
Thank you, Max. Hey, that's great reporting on the train horn, right? Couldn't have been more perfect timing.
Oh, that's great timing.
Yeah, notice how Max was talking about the chicken Big Mac.
Yeah, you
too,
guys are
right
still
before
you guys
the
are
safety.
still talking about the chicken.
We
Big
went
Mac,
on with that for like 20 minutes.
Sounds good, but he was the MVP of the game for dealing with that. I don't know how he was able to hear after that.
I'm not sure. He's got a big day coming up this
does.
week. I don't know if he's going to be able to hear or
Yeah,
not.
I don't know. I hope so. There's a few words he has to make sure he hears, but other than that, then he's good.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, exactly.
But no,
congrats
to Max, and great win for Hanover. That's our top 5 plays of the week, thanks to Potocki Orthodontics in Grass Lake. Grass Lake was hopping this weekend, too, speaking of GL.
Yeah.
They had Oktoberfest.
That's right.
I didn't get a chance to make it down there.
I think Lucas went down there. I think Sarah was down there. So we had some JTV representation there.
Yep. Andy Hawley, Jennifer Scanlon was there.
Yep.
So all was good. Braden Lape performed. So it was all good. You can check out photos from that too on our website. So, all right, when we come back, the Tigers Game 2 Monday of the AL Division Series and a big slate of college football from Saturday. That's coming up. Welcome back here on JTV. David Rice. Tigers, of course, since we talked to you last, they won the wild card round and beat the Astros. By the way, Game 2, that was almost gave us a heart attack in the last inning.
It was fun, though.
Yeah, and but they played Game 1 Saturday at Cleveland of the divisional round, and I didn't watch a single pitch.
Okay.
I'll be honest.
I watched 95% of that game.
So I'll let you recap most of the game, but what I will say is...
I don't know if I want to.
They allowed 5 of the 7 runs in the first inning, and not so good. But we knew coming in that it was going to be a tough series. Cleveland's a good team. And they have another great pitcher, too, on Cleveland's team.
It's not over. It's not over. It's
No.
just you can't give up 5 runs in the first inning, especially with they have the best relief pitching in baseball. You can argue we're number 2. So, similar teams in that aspect. But, yeah, it was very disappointing. But, I kind of knew the game was over instantly when I saw those 5 runs. It's just like, all right, they're going to get their relief pitching in and kind of dominate. But this is the game today. This is the game where if Skubal dominates like I expect him to, it's going to be close, and it will come down to who can score the first run. I have a feeling, but we'll see.
And because we knew it was over right away when Cleveland scored the first 5 runs, because other than like if you're playing the White Sox, the Tigers win mostly lower scoring games.
That's true.
The Tigers aren't a team that's going to go out and score 8, 9, 10 runs in a game.
Well, and not against the best relief pitching in the league as well.
Right,
And their
especially
ace
that.
as well. So it's just like, that's the problem. That's where I saw was just like, all right, it's a combination.
They came out
of the two.
swinging in Game 1, and the Tigers obviously waited for Skubal till today.
Yeah,
So-
and there was a couple of questionable calls, a couple, a strike call that a ball that should have been called a strike that would have got Holton out of that inning without giving up all those runs. Then it was like the problem at third base, the error that brought in runs. So
I didn't watch any of the games, so it's more of a question. But
Yeah.
do you think like that bad strike call or some of those things? Do you think that really impacted overall? Like the Tigers would have won.
Well,
if,
I mean, here it's so hard to know because here's the thing: like if they would have gotten out of that inning, that'd have been a no-run inning for Holton, and it would have been 0-0, and that whole the mindset of all these players would have been completely different because you go down 5-0, especially against the division winners, and you're just like, oh, geez, here we go. So I think the mindset could have been a little differently. Look, Cleveland's a great team, and on paper they are a better team than us. We've been playing just as good, if not better, but I'm not panicking, especially with Skubal on the mound. You go down 2-0, you can start to panic a bit, especially losing with Skubal. But
because then
this is
Game
a
3
must-win.
would go to Comerica, and we
And it'd
wouldn't
be
have Skubal.
Pitching by committee again. It'd be pitching anarchy or whatever they call it.
Right.
But yeah, I think this is a must-win though. I can throw away that last game and say, it happened. That happened in 06 as well. We got blown out by one of the games by the Yankees, and then we came back and won the next 2. So that same thing could happen now. And I feel like this team is so much alike that 06 roster. So they can do it. They can beat the mighty Guardians, and Guardians are my least favorite team. So let's just make this happen. Let's just
Right.
beat them, please.
Game 2, of course, by the time you watch this, most of Game 2 will already be completed, but Game 2 Monday, 4 o'clock on TBS. But Game 3 is Wednesday, 3 o'clock. And obviously we hope there's going to be a Game 4, but Game 4, if necessary, would be Thursday at 6 p.m.
Yeah. Let's hope that either we can win the next 3 in a row and we get to finish the series at Comerica. If not, let's hope we can, after this game, head back to Cleveland. As much as people wouldn't typically like to head back to Cleveland, we could head back to Cleveland for Game 5. This is for you.
Yeah. So the Tigers, of course, Reese Olson, Game 1, pitched 5 innings, 4 strikeouts, 3 hits.
Which, coming in after Tyler Holton, not terrible. I still really like Reese Olson. But Yeah, it was one of those kind of a mop-up role, kind of, where it's just, again, he still had some good innings, gave up a couple runs here and there, but it's just like we talked about before. It's like you get to their bullpen, Cleveland's bullpen, it's so hard to match up against it. And their closer, Emmanuel Clase, is just out of this world good.
And because there's so many games in baseball, and then you get to the, basically the dog days of the season,
Yeah.
the more tiring parts of the season, and you try to finish strong in the playoffs, and then on a day where Skubal isn't pitching, and then we're pitching by committee, and then we're going up against the best bullpen in baseball in Cleveland, and that's what makes it tough.
Yeah, and this is baseball. This is what happens in baseball. You
Right.
can lose 7-0 one night, and then today we could win 3-0. Like
Or
Skubal
1-0.
Yeah, Skubal could come out and dominate, and we could get the bats at the right time. And now it looks a lot different being 1-1 going to Detroit. That's the whole thing, right? Like it's not.
We
time
win
to
game
panic.
2. We're tied 1-1. It comes to Comerica. The momentum's
Then-
our way in our stadium.
Yeah, then we get a win. We're at home. We get a win. Now we're up 2-1. We have 2 games to
And then
send
a
us
chance-
to the ALCS.
A chance to send us to the ALCS at Comerica.
And it could be possible. I know that Kansas City and New York is having a series right now, but it's like it could be us against New York. We could be facing the Yankees. A really good lineup, but we've beaten the Yankees in the past. We beat the Yankees at the Little League when they had that game.
That's what started the Tigers' run, was against the Yankees.
Right. So
Javi Baez sitting at home, watching this
the
happen,
injury,
and,
yeah.
Wow.
I wonder what his mindset is. You think about Baez with the problems he has had.
I'm not sorry to.
No.
I think I'm not saying Javi Baez was 100% the issue. He was a big part of it, because when you pay a guy that much money and then he doesn't do well and his morale is down, and it brought a lot of other people down, and we really sucked at that point. Then he gets hurt. Then after that, the Tigers turn it around. They're at Williamsport against the Yankees. They have the walk-off and win, and from there on, here we are now.
Yeah, I mean,
how do you think he's feeling, though?
Oh, he must be feeling terrible, especially just being in playoff, not being able to participate in playoff baseball.
Well, he'd
sucks.
go 0 for 5 with 4 strikeouts
Yeah,
anyway.
but
so.
you pay him the money because those are
Right,
the moments
yeah.
that he would shine. Is like in those day-to-day plays, he's not going to make. But like those bottom of the 9th inning, you need a guy up there. Baez is that guy. But I almost credit more with what happened with our success, more to the return of Kerry Carpenter. I think that really helped.
Yep.
During that time that he came back, his slugging percentage was up there with Ohtani, Judge, and Bobby Witt.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And
Right.
So if he would have played the whole season, it might be a little differently. Maybe seeding would be a little different. We might have even won the Central if he was here the entire time.
And Riley Green was hurt for a while,
Yeah,
too.
and then he came
hasn't,
back and played well.
I know he hasn't been as much of an impact at the plate batting as Kerry
least
Carpenter.
right.
But him coming back helped, too, and Carpenter.
And he's a leader, so, I mean, that helps as well. So
Right.
it's, trust me, I'm not in panic mode. I've heard a lot of people talk over the weekend of kind of being in panic mode after that 7-0. I'm not worrying right now. It's really coming down to this game. If
You can't
Skubal
write it
can
off
play
yet.
well. Yeah, if
It's not
Skubal can
over.
play well against this lineup,
Yeah.
I feel great going 1-1 into Detroit. And I think going into the season, if you would have told me we'd be in the ALDS against the Guardians and we're 1-1 going back to Detroit, I'd be like, what's there to panic about? So
Yeah.
I'm totally good right now.
What'd you just do in the bathroom before you came and
Yeah,
talked
what the
to me
heck?
saying that? College football also happened. A lot of upsets. I will talk about the big one coming up. I'll save that for the last college football game. I'll have to pull up the picture of their goalposts after.
I know what you're talking about.
MSU lost Friday as expected to Oregon, number 6, and for some reason I had my Fox streaming on Spanish.
And that was really funny after the game.
I don't know how I did that.
I don't know, but it was cool.
I didn't press a button.
It was exciting, though.
Yeah, especially when Oregon had that wild catch. The player was sitting down.
Yeah.
Whoa! Unranked Syracuse. I got home and watched the end of this one. Unranked Syracuse beat number 25 UNLV in Vegas. That was a hell of a game.
I was going to say, looked like a shootout, 44-41.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Arkansas over Tennessee. I watched that. That was fun. 19-14.
What a crazy upset there. I was very surprised.
Cal was up. College game day was at Cal. Cal versus Miami. By the way, Reese Davis did College Game Day early in the morning, and then him and Brock Osweiler did the game at 10:30 p.m. Eastern.
Oh,
Reese
goodness.
Davis worked 22 hours that day. After game day was done at noon, he waited all day at Berkeley and then did the game.
Hopefully he got some sleep in the press box or something before, because that's tough.
With trying to watch football and get the sleep. But Miami scored 29 points in the second half to come back and beat Cal.
They're very lucky they weren't in the group of teams that got upset at this week, because they could easily.
Because Tennessee's dropped from the rankings. Alabama should be a lot lower than number 7, and of course Michigan. Number 25, Texas A&M handled Missouri 41-10.
Didn't think that was going to happen
in our
like
picks.
that.
No, absolutely not. And Michigan sucks, you know what? They fell to Washington. That was ridiculous.
I didn't even get to watch this game on Saturday, so I didn't really
Good.
get to see him. Yeah,
That's good.
I think I saw just I saw a couple minutes of it at one point, and I think it was tied, or at least Michigan was up at that point. But yeah, not fun. And you said they're what rank now, Michigan?
24. They went from 10 to 24.
But again, we kind of knew something like this was going to happen. We just didn't expect them
Washington,
to lose to this team.
remember we said all week, I was questioning why ESPN put Washington as the favorite minus 2.5.
They know something.
But I will say, how come Michigan dropped 14 spots, right?
You lose to an unranked team, you're going to drop.
Right.
Yeah.
And they lost, but Washington's not like, they're not like a bad unranked
They're not
team.
like, I don't know, like Vanderbilt or
right,
something
exactly.
like that.
They're not Vanderbilt. Alabama loses to Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
Even though it ended up being a close game, Vanderbilt was the better team from the start.
Yeah.
Because I watched most of that game. I was flipping through the scores on the TV, and then I scrolled down the very bottom. It said SEC Network.
And you're like, whoa.
Vanderbilt with the lead. And I'm like, stop what you're doing now. But and then Vanderbilt beats number 1 Alabama, and Alabama only loses to number 7. Vanderbilt is historically a bad program. We know that. So how come Alabama only dropped 6 spots to number 7?
I mean, this is their first loss.
Because
I understand.
they barely beat Georgia.
Yeah, I understand.
And then they lose to Vanderbilt. It's people always talk about SEC bias in the rankings. That's where I'm going with here, because
I don't think it's bias as much as just, they have one loss. Michigan has multiple losses. And not like that they, because we've lost to Texas, we've lost to Washington.
Right,
Do we have
but
one
Texas
more?
is the best team in college football.
For sure, and that was a quality loss, but this is not a quality loss. Alabama hasn't had, Alabama would be pretty far down.
This is a big loss for Michigan.
It is, but I think
and it's the same thing though with Alabama. So I don't understand.
I mean,
Vanderbilt's a lot worse than Washington.
If I would have told you going into this last game, hey, you know what? I think Washington's going to beat Michigan. You would have been like, I can see it, but I think Michigan has the edge. We talked about this.
Right. That's exactly what we said.
If I would have told you Vanderbilt would lose to Alabama, you would be like, there's no freaking way. So I guess I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Because it's so crazy, but I don't think there's an implicit bias. I really don't. I know it's a money business, but I think it's one loss right now for Bama.
And since the playoff, there has been, and it's mostly ESPN/ABC. They try to deny it. One guy is my proof of point, SEC and Paul Feinbaum. He's the main head honcho of the SEC pretty much there, but they've had a bias, for the SEC since the playoffs started, because it was one year Alabama and Georgia both made, there's been a couple years where, there was 2 or maybe there could have been 3 SEC teams in the top 4, and there should not have been 3 teams.
I guess. I'll make an argument that if you
because it's all about the money now.
Well, I was gonna say if you like good football, you want more SEC teams in the playoff,
right?
Just because that's where SEC and the Big Ten is where good football happens. So you want those teams in there.
Even the Big Ten is deep too.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look at all these really good, talented Texas, Oregon, Michigan, all these really talented teams, Ohio State that are in here. So it's
even Iowa,
Penn State. There's good teams.
Penn State might be better than Ohio State. That's maybe. That's a discussion for another time.
Yes, it is. Yeah, I think Ohio State's the best team in college football right now, but unfortunately.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I don't think there's an implicit bias. But you want those teams from those conferences in there. So I guess can see it kind of goes both ways, but
Unranked Minnesota. How about that? They beat
Wow.
USC at Minnesota
good for them.
24-17.
Good for the Gophers.
And unranked SMU in a shootout over Louisville, too. And then the big one, Alabama losing to Vanderbilt. Their goalpost ended up in the river,
And they tried to save it.
right, and now they got fined.
Oh, they got fined.
The Vanderbilt got fined $100,000 for the whole fiasco after. So I don't know if I just saw this right before we came on the air. Want to know how they're trying to get the money now? They're gonna cut up the goalpost, like saw it, and
cool.
sell pieces of the goalpost
cool.
and sell them to try to get that money back to pay the
they'll
fine.
get that easily. This is the biggest win in school history, so they'll easily get that.
Right. They threw it into the river though, just like Tennessee did.
Good. So good.
They walked it all the way through Nashville. Probably saw Kid Rock and Trump on the way. Threw the goalpost in. But no, it was a good week of college football. And an even better week in the NFL. We haven't talked to you guys since the Thursday night game. We actually got a really good Thursday game. Kadarius Hodges walked it off for the Falcons.
That was really good.
That was an amazing game. Kirk Cousins, 508 yards. 508.
Hey, primetime Kirk. Somehow coming through.
He's the whitest man to do the surf swag and the dance there. Did you see that?
Yeah. Oh, man.
Whitest person ever. It might be whiter than me. But anyways, that was a good win, though, for Atlanta over Tampa Bay. I got up early because normally I don't get up at 9:30 on Sunday, but I got up to watch the London game, and the Jets sucked again, and the Vikings are 5-0 now. Rodgers threw 3 interceptions. You know how rare it is for him to throw one pick alone?
I was so hoping the Jets would win.
And I forget his name from Minnesota, but he had a pick
Van
six
Ginkel.
again. Yeah.
Yeah, Van Ginkel. Yeah, he has been tearing it up.
I know. Take the Vikings defense, by the way, in fantasy if you can. How about this one, though? Jaden Daniels in Washington, 4-1.
I think I remember telling Barker like maybe 3-4 weeks ago. I'm like, I think Washington's going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL. And boy, did that not happen. I'm definitely wrong.
The Browns.
Yeah, the Browns. It might be that.
Coach Kevin Stefanski was asked for the Browns after the game if they're going to make a quarterback change. He said no, absolutely not.
They have Jameis. I would explore Jameis.
But they're only not, though, because how much they paid Deshaun Watson.
I guess, but if he's not performing, I don't care. I'm not going to – if you're not performing, I'll just not play you.
I want to talk about the same thing with this game briefly. They talked about it on in the NBC studio while they were trying to fill time with the weather delay.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was Chris Sims and Jason McCurdy and Jason Garrett. They brought up, do you replace Deshaun Watson because of how bad the Browns are, or not because of his contract issue, or do you replace him, just straight up because they have been sucking, but you still want to play Deshaun Watson because you know how good he is despite the off-field issues? That's what Jason Garrett said. It's a wishy-washy.
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know. It's not like I'm saying Jameis
Well,
Winston.
I mean, do you start Jameis Winston this week?
I was just going to say, I don't see Jameis Winston as the be-all, end-all is going to change that team, but we see how a fresh quarterback can do certain things.
But we've seen Jameis come in. He was Derek Carr's backup for New Orleans.
He played well. He played well. Every time he's been a backup, he's played pretty well. So
right.
And to me, it's like you brought him in. I don't care about all right, if you're not playing well, like a Baez, I'll bench you. I don't care that we're paying you X amount of money. If you're not playing well, we're just going to bench you. So kind of the same thing here. I'm okay with potentially benching Deshaun Watson, but I guess some of it too is, do you think you're still contenders to win the Super Bowl or to get to the playoffs? No,
they're not contenders even in the division.
Then do whatever you want at this point, and I definitely could see this in 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks. This could happen, but maybe not right now. But eventually I will be very shocked if by the end of the year we don't talk about seeing Jameis Winston starting. There will be a week he's going to start.
So Jason Garrett brought up that point of, even though you paid him and you have all these off-field issues, do you still start him? And then Chris Sims brought up the point saying, remember last year the Browns didn't start great, and guess who was their backup last year? Joe Flacco. And he came in and made the difference and made a playoff run and won a playoff game. He thinks they're in a similar situation with Jameis Winston as the backup.
I just don't know if Jameis isn't going to do what Flacco did.
No.
I can just tell you that now.
No.
Because watching Flacco play for the Colts, it's just like, oh my gosh, this guy
And
can
even
still
though
play.
even though the Colts lost yesterday to
He looked good.
Jacksonville, he looked good.
Yeah.
He even ran.
Which is crazy.
The Texans beat Buffalo.
Would you have ran it at all at the end of that Texas Buffalo game? No, here's my thing. I think it kind of got overplayed.
That was the stupidest.
I would have passed, but here's the thing. I would have passed on first down. I would have ran on second down. I wouldn't have ran again on third down. So it's like they should have ran it one time and they didn't. But people were acting like they should have ran it all 3 plays. I don't think you do that. You have one of the best players in football. You give it to him. You have him take some shots. But I think after the incomplete pass on first down, they should have made a little bit more room, should have ran a draw or something up the middle. So I was kind of surprised by that. But yeah, they mismanaged that game, and that's what led to the loss.
And I know everybody says this, but how if I was the Bills coach, I would have passed on first down just to see if something big can happen and you get a first down and see what happens after that.
Yeah.
But if you don't get the first down, like on a big pass, run the football on second and third down.
Yeah.
Eat the clock, waste all the play clock on fourth down, call timeout, punt it, and trust your defense.
Yeah. I mean, Texans had all 3 timeouts. Could have stopped
That
the clock
made it
whenever they
even
wanted.
worse is because the Houston had 3 timeouts.
Yeah.
And now, obviously, they only needed like 10 seconds. They got the ball back and kicked a field goal and won. So the Ravens also walked it off in overtime at Cincinnati. That was a great game. The Packers took advantage of the Rams' continuing second half struggles. We needed that win, and Tucker Kraft, our tight end, had 2 touchdowns.
Great game from him.
That was great, even though Noah had Tucker Kraft. He hit the taunt button on the fantasy.
I saw the text. That's hilarious.
And the game ended at 4 in the morning.
Finally
the Cowboys
happened.
beat the Steelers on Sunday
ended.
Night Football. Hey, when we come back, we're going to wrap up. High school soccer and golf playoffs start this week, so we have a lot to talk about. Stay tuned. Welcome back here on JTV. I'm David Rice. Real quick here before we go, high school playoffs are already starting for some sports. Can you believe that? Time's flying by. Girls golf regionals start tomorrow, Tuesday. And of course, the team to watch out for in girls golf, of course, Columbia Central with their star Logan Bentley, who just committed to Oakland University too. Congratulations. They as a team or individually, she finished second twice in the Division IV tournament in the last 3 years, and as a team, they're a top 5 team in the state. So look for Columbia to make noise there. So Tuesday, Jay High and Northwest play at Coldwater and open golf regionals, and then Tuesday at 10 a.m. most of the other area teams play at Cascades Tuesday. Teeing off at 10 a.m., Addison, Columbia, EJ, Grass Lake, Lumen, Center, Napoleon, and Onstead. And then Wednesday at Paw Paw, taking a little drive, Hanover and Hillsdale. And then Arbor Hills, Western is hosting. So girls golf regionals will have highlights and photos, jtv.tv, and we'll share the opening results from the first couple of local golf regionals on Wednesday's show. And then soccer playoffs start as well. Wednesday this week, Western is at Harbor Creek in their district. Flashbacks of football and soccer. But no, Harper Creek is hosting a district. Wednesday, Western plays Battle Creek Central. Northwest Jay High on Thursday. The 2 winners of those games will play against each other next week in the district semifinals. D3 at Lansing Catholic. Center plays Lansing Catholic Wednesday night, 7 o'clock. Columbia plays Stockbridge at 5. Grass Lake plays at 6. And all those winners will play Monday. And then the only local school in the area hosting a district is Jackson Christian. They host an Ann Arbor school. 4:30 Wednesday. Lumen plays at Jackson Christian right after that on Wednesday, and then Manchester on Thursday. So high school golf, soccer playoffs, all the pictures online, and we'll have more results and who's going to be playing in the next round on Wednesday's show. And before we go, week 7 of high school football is this Friday. We will be back at J-High, Withington Stadium. J-High taking on a undefeated, really good Chelsea team. This is going to be, to me, an interesting matchup.
I'm excited for it. Yeah. Should be a really good matchup.
New coach Noel Dean for the Bulldogs. So we'll talk about it more and potentially a special guest on the show Wednesday for it. So that's it for us. That's Adam. I'm David. Thanks to Potocki, Minuteman Sewer and Drain, the Circle Agency, and go Tigers. We'll talk to you Wednesday.